you walked out so fast yesterday. No, I don't think you're here to stay. No, I don't think you're here to stay. So tell me what you want, tell me how you want it. Tell me all the reasons that you're running away. I don't think you're here to stay. No, I don't think you're here to stay. No, no, no. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna dance all night, forget my problems, I might go insane. I don't really give a damn what they say. And now you know it. Hey, little lady said you feel the same, but I don't believe a word you say. Cause I don't think you're here to stay. No, I don't think you're here to stay. So tell me what you want, tell me how you want it. Tell me all the reasons that you're running away. I don't think you're here to stay. No, I don't think you're here to stay. No, no, no. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna dance all night, forget my problems, I might go insane. I don't really give a damn what they say. And now you know it. I feel like you're lying, trying to be real, but you seem so fake. I'm so over trying to move on, but you're in my way. I'm so over trying to move on, but you're in my way. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna dance all night, forget my problems, I might go insane. I don't really give a damn what they say. And now you know it. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you, yeah. I just wanna be with you. Yeah, I just wanna be with you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is HLTV confirmed episode 6. Once again, we're back with more talk about CSGO, specifically StarSeries Season 6, and all the other exciting topics that's been going on from Reddit, on HLTV.org, in the CSGO sphere. Everything that's interesting to talk about, we will talk about here. We have the usual suspects on the panel tonight: Prof, Striker, and a new face. Well, for us, but I guess not for the general CSGO population. Hey, Moses, what's up? Oh, is he muted? Where'd he go?
He is talking, but he.
That's a great
Wait,
start,
wait,
isn't
wait.
it?
Hey,
Okay,
Moses.
There we go.
you guys want to know a really funny story about this? Is I completely forgot that I was using push to talk at the beginning.
Well,
So that
he's.
didn't go well.
I'll.
Off to a great
You
start.
want a do-over?
No, we're all good. Fuck it, we'll do it live type thing.
For everyone out there viewing that didn't know, Moses asked us like 5 minutes before live. Hey, wait, is this live?
It's for reasons like that. I thought maybe we could edit it out, but I was wrong. So, oh well.
What's going on, Jason?
Oh, not much. As you can see, I'm a bit rusty with these things. I've disappeared for the past week after Blast. I didn't check the email. I didn't pick up the phone and do anything about esports. So this is like really one of my first forages back into the world of video games.
Sounds
Yeah.
like you're gonna know a lot about Star Series then.
I was gonna say when that intro came in and like we're talking Star Series, I was like, great. I haven't seen any of it.
Don't worry. We've been
We
binge
got plenty of
watching
other
it.
topics, don't worry.
You can just pretend. That's fine. Oh, just to stay on the blast thing there. I guess a reason why you've been offline since then is because you had quite the rough task there. For those of you who don't know, you had to take up the hosting role, right?
Yeah, Red Eye was came in and I got sick and yeah, they asked me to step in for it, which is fine. I actually like doing the hosting stuff. It's cool to get to do that once in a while. I don't know if I'd necessarily enjoy it as a permanent thing, but I think it's a super important skill to have for like on camera talent, and it's easily translatable to other projects as well. So yeah, it was just a fun kind of throw you in the deep end, and on top of that, we had Kiyoshima, who's never been on a desk before and his second language is English, and then we had Potter, who had never been on a desk before as well. So there were a couple different obstacles there, but it was a good time.
I mean, knowing a little bit about how that stuff works, I wouldn't want to be the one to get asked like hours before the show. Oh, by the way, you're hosting. We'll.
It's one of the strengths that I guess I have when I negotiate for events is the fact that I can step in as an analyst or a caster or a host if needed. So I mean, it's kind of hard to turn it down when they come to you and they're like, "Hey, we really need you to host this desk." It's not like I can just say, "Nah, fuck off."
What about AMA host, or at least answerer of questions in the Twitch chat? Because that's what we have here, guys. A lot of people already asking questions. Please go ahead and do so. If it pertains to the subject we're on right now, if it doesn't, put them in there. We'll catch up on them, and Moses will do his best to answer them. Well, like, including us, I guess. You guys want to get rolling with the first topic then? I guess the event that's going on right now, Star Series, has been pretty interesting for me at least. Last show we talked about this would be a fun event because we had a lot of tier 2 teams that a lot of them haven't played each other before. We'd see new matchups, and I think the playoffs are definitely also an evident of that we get to see some teams playing each other that we usually don't. I guess it's mostly for you then, Prof and Striker. I put who looks good in Kiev, but you might as well mention the bad ones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Moses, how much do you know about what happened at Star Series? Like, have you at least looked at the
Just lay the
results?
ground.
I
I've
mean,
been I've been following the results. I haven't watched a single round of it,
all right,
but I
because I
but I
wanted
have
to I
been
wanted to
keeping
ask
track of
you.
teams that beat who.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to ask you how you think, like, looking at the teams, how you think the event should have gone. Like, if you didn't know anything about the event, but I mean, obviously, if you follow the results at least, then you know what happened.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, obviously, especially after New York, and even just looking at that team list, you would have said Mousesports and
Yeah.
NRG and North are kind of the three teams that would be your far and away favorites to go deep into the event. which is so it's kind of crazy to see Mousesports already out of it. You know, and everything after that. I mean, I am a little bit surprised that Gambit, Hellraisers, these guys had, you know, pretty weak events. Tai Lu as well. Like a lot of these teams that look good at the major, even Big once again, like struggling in the group stage, much like they did at the major, and then recovering towards the end. But Complexity going 0-3, that's going to be a big blow to them. So there are some surprises, surely, but I mean, in the grand context of the scene overall, I think this event is so up in the air that it doesn't really matter too much.
I think it's just it kind of goes on to prove how close this event has been, right? If you look at how in Norway, like for example, Sprout went out, they went 0-3 against the Swiss, but they had a chance in every single match that they played. And like if you look at the other results, like Hellraisers went out as well, but had like double-digit results in every loss, I think, and then we're just generally fairly close to making it through. And like a lot of these teams that went out actually had pretty good results, like Imperial and teams like that. So it was just such a it just, like I said at the start, it just proves how close the competition was at this event from the start. And like obviously the only big surprise to me because of that is Mousesports. Obviously, they just didn't show up at all.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the teams, like it's Cyberzen being the only team that really didn't show much. I think they beat Renegades in the first game, and they're like a pretty new team, and then just lost like everyone, all of these big teams. I'm looking at it right now. It's Mousesports, Imperial, Hellraisers, and it wasn't really a great showing from them, but that was kind of expected as well. And I think Tai Lu as well didn't really show up. Considering all of the teams that went out, I think the two Chinese teams were the worst. I think with Tai Lu, it also ties into the thing that I mentioned at least before the last on the last show before the event. It's that like half of Tai Lu was playing the WSG qualifier in some mixed Chinese roster, so they obviously weren't like practicing for at least a week going straight into this event, so probably gonna kind of impact their form. But the worst part about it is that they got like their best maps is like Inferno and Mirage that they only played, I think, and they like lost it very convincingly quite a few times. So there's this story about them at the major that those two maps they can beat like almost anyone, and now it's kind of falling apart. That storyline is kind of falling apart, and that could be bad for them going forward.
What about Complexity, guys? I mean, becoming legends at the major only to lose 0-3 to Gambit, Renegades, and Big. Well, I guess the last one makes kind of sense, but those I think were also one of the teams that maybe didn't play as well as the other teams that went out, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
There were flashes of brilliance, but
I mean, not even flashes of brilliance from Complexity. Honestly, to be honest, it's just
Dan had some good UMP plays. That's all.
That's
for
fair.
me.
Like
That's
on
very
Mirage
important.
or whatever it was. Yeah. I mean, Complexity. I think we were all looking at the question of whether they overperformed, right, at the major, because we saw how at in New York at the what was it MSI MJ finals, they went out to like Avant-Garde in the final, right? I think it was. So, like looking at that result, you have to start thinking like, did we actually see the true Complexity at the major, or did we just see them overperform there? And I feel like we've gotten the answer at this StarSeries event because, like you said, they went out 0-3 and they weren't all that competitive. Like I think it was Renegades who they lost to like in 16-8 or something like that, 16-9 or Mirage. So it's just like that's against the team that's literally just been formed like 2 weeks ago and hasn't had almost any time to prepare. So I feel like I said, we just got the answer to whether they overperform, and they just did at the major. I feel like this is back where we expected Complexity to be, or at least around there. I feel like this has been a huge disappointment, even looking at
I wouldn't say that we expected them to lose to Renegades that literally formed 2 weeks ago. And I forgot about them when I was talking earlier. Obviously, they played like very, very poorly. But at the same time, like I tweeted to Nell, who said like, now this proves that this is the real Complexity. I think it's stupid to just judge a team on these 3 best of ones if we can't judge them on like 6 best of ones from the major. I mean, you can't really judge them fully on either of those. But I think that this isn't the real Complexity either. It's just teams have these ups and downs, and they've been a team that have been on the road for pretty long, doing a lot of boot camps. They boot camp before the major, like 3 weeks of the major, then going straight to New York. So they've been on the road for pretty long, and I feel like stuff like that can really just deteriorate you as a team. So you need like a mini break, stuff like that, to get back on the horse. And obviously, it's the underdog story. They've been kind of exploded on the scene, so everyone took notice of them, and now no one's gonna like take a game against Complexity easy, so they're gonna prepare a lot more. So now they have to get over like this next step is people actually thinking they are a good team, maybe like they have potential, so they're taking them more seriously. They need to get over that step and start winning those matches as well. So yeah, I don't think either of those complexities is the real complexity. It's somewhere in the middle, and I think they still can like improve and be like a solid top 20 team at least, because this wasn't a top 20 showing at all. It's just being fairly nothing.
Somewhere in America, there's a man with a white shirt and a red tie that's thinking, okay, what did I buy into? What am I gonna do now? Moses, what's your take as the resident NA expert, I guess, just for lack of a better word, about this team now?
I think Professor just kind of nailed it. I mean, you can't really say that they overperformed at the major and at one event essentially, and then kind of say that this is an underperformance in just one event. That the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. And it's part of the growing pains of a team that's kind of coming through the ranks and that is kind of in that tier 2, tier 3 position with a little bit of success. Is the hardest part is finding consistency, is being able to play the way that they did at the major, both on an individual and a team level. Event in, event out, match in, match out, and even some of the best teams in the world struggle with it. So for them, it's just kind of some growing pains, I think. And the point that they've been on the road for so long is very good as well. Not able to kind of brush things up, not able to change anything, not able to really talk things over too much between the matches. So, it probably just being stressed from all the travel and not being home and everything like that. So they've got a lot of things going against them. And I think they've made great strides in these past 2 months. And obviously, I guess, over time, towards the end of the year, I think we'll have a better idea where this complexity team is. But I mean, certainly they looked great at the major, but I mean, I think everyone knew that wasn't going to be where the level we'd see them playing at for events to come. They've shown they have some special pieces and some special style to them, but we'll just see if they can make it a consistent thing, and that's when they start to get dangerous. And obviously, also having to deepen the map pool and everything along those lines.
Let's talk a little bit about the team that you all kind of mentioned, and I think the obvious one to talk about when we talk about the bad is obviously Mousesports.
Yeah.
You all already mentioned a bit of the story there, but that's tough, huh? I mean, going from winning New York and then kind of having this showing and going out the way that they did also. We'll talk a little bit about the circumstances around the actual last game they had in a little bit, but let's talk about the level of play first, especially since, and I should notice this, there's a report up now on HLTV by way of VP Esports that they're weighing up, and this is actually the wording that we used, which some people take offense to, of throwing out Snacks, or at least dropping him again, because they haven't really been satisfied with the results. What do you guys think about that? Let's just start with that. We were definitely kind of worried, or at least not convinced, that this would be a good pickup when we talked about it the first time. What have you guys seen from him and the lineup after he joined?
I mean, it's hard to look past his performance, especially at this event, right? Because he averaged something like a 0.8 rating at this throughout the 5 games that they played. So that's obviously something you're going to have to look at. But it just doesn't feel like he has ever found his place on the team. It's just been, Mousesports have kind of been a team since Snacks joined, that even before that, but especially since Snacks joined, they have been kind of dependent on these big plays, big individual plays, like we saw Chris J, even when back when they still played with Stico, and nothing came in for that one event. We just saw Chris J stepping up, and that's kind of how Mousesports have been, what they've been dependent on ever since then. They just needed the individual plays, and that just wasn't there at this event. Snacks was awful, but to be fair, even Sunny had a pretty bad performance. I think this has been one of his worst events, and that's like up against a fairly like lower tier competition. So that's something you have to look at, as well as the reason for why they went out so early as a team that was the obvious tournament favorite. So not even Rops has been able to kind of step up from these last couple of months where he has been hitting a bit of a rut. And then Chris J had a pretty good tournament, but like the obvious saving grace was Oscar, and that wasn't enough. So that's it's just as a team that depends on these individual players is just not enough from some of these pieces.
Giorgio says Snacks joined and pushed Robs into tons of bad position, and Oscar's form fell. So since Snacks joined, he played bad. They all play bad because of the positions. What do you think about that, Prof?
I don't think that really happened, to be honest. I don't think like Snacks joining pushed Robs anywhere. It's just like Snacks joined and he's not playing very well, and that's not pushing them forwards. And obviously he's kind of a different style of a player compared to Stico. You expect him to deliver in terms of frags and stuff. I'm just browsing his stats right now. Like from this event, he had only one game that he was above 1.0 rating. That's against Cyberzen 16-1, so you can't even really count that. Like if you take that off, I think his rating is, just calculating now, it's like 0.6 for this LAN or something without the Cyberzen game, which inflated it very heavily. And overall, he doesn't have even 50% of the maps. He isn't positively rated for Mousesports, so on LAN since he joined. So that's not really something you're looking to have from when you buy Snacks and put him in the roster. So I don't think, from the beginning, I was really skeptical about what it would bring. And obviously, it seems like it's going to happen that they're not satisfied and that they're going to just cut him from the roster. Makes sense, kind of.
So now, what do you do if you're a Mouse, right? Because you benched Nico for this, and he ended up going to Cloud9, which didn't work out for him. So now he's in a limbo. Do you sign him back, or do you go find something else and try to move on with the mission of taking in someone who's probably fragging a little bit better, who's more of a star player?
He's still signed to Mousesports as far as I know.
Yeah.
So I think you obviously just bring him back. I think the Snacks thing was a cute little romantic fling that they had, and probably rushed into it a little quick, as we've all done. So I think you bring Stico back and you at least play with him maybe till the next major if you don't find anything. But I think you need to take a longer look and a longer time. And I think you bring him back more so to get players like, because I do agree that Oscar has slipped a little bit, but so is Rops and so is Sunny. Everyone, this is why I think this idea that Snacks coming in has put people in awkward positions. These players are good enough to where even if they change, even if their role on the defensive side, even if they get put into a different position to defend, even if they get put into a slightly different role on the T side, everyone's good enough to be able to overcome that. And if you can't, then you're not fucking worth the salary you're getting paid at this point, or you're getting paid at this point, to be entirely honest. So I think there's more an emotional or personality clash within the team where players wouldn't be happy, whether it's with each other, whether it's with the way they're playing the game, whether it's with their results, which is obvious. I think that's a lot of what we saw to Mousesports, especially against Big. We saw some of that frustration bubbling over. So, I think you bring Stico back just to go to the point, because remember, when he was in this team, it wasn't like they were doing bad. Like, this roster change for Snacks not only was confusing in terms of how they were going to be able to play with him, but also because they were getting good results with Stico. They weren't winning as many of events as they would have liked, but they were placing high up. So that was the confusing thing. They were getting top fours. So I think you bring it back, you see if you can get everyone else comfortable, see if you can reignite some of that old magic that had you guys playing well. And if not, then you kind of look at what you really need. Is it really Stico who is the problem? Do they really think they need an upgrade of skill when they have Rops, Sunny, Chris J, and Oscar? Like, those guys are all insanely talented. So, I mean, you just kind of have to look at it a little bit deeper and a little bit more honestly and realize it's not a fifth fragger you need. It is something else. So they'll just buy themselves a little bit of time to kind of talk that over before making a more permanent change.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't enough for them, right? Those top fours, like, that's why they made the change, right? They weren't happy with just making top fours. They just wanted to make
they
did
the
right?
Fnatic. They did that old school Fnatic thing where it's like, we're winning everything, but it's time to make a change because we don't like the way that we're winning all this money. So
I mean, obviously, like, if you keep doing top fours, then you just like try to make the next step and it never works. I think it was understandable that they wanted to try something else. Obviously, Snacks, like in hindsight, Snacks hasn't been the answer to that. It just hasn't been working out at all. But I mean, fair play for trying, to be honest.
I mean, I understand like the attempt to add Snacks in, like, okay, top four is not enough. We're close to winning, but we can't win. Let's change something to get the win. But I was thinking about it today. Like, is replacing your like support player, that's kind of your baseline as a team. They obviously had a strong baseline, finishing top four all the time. Like, they made every playoffs except the first tournament they played with Stico and Sunny. So they had a good baseline. I think if you want to win tournaments, then it's not the support player that needs to be changed. It's something about the star players not being able to bring you across the line, not having enough in that department. That is probably your issue with the team. So I think thinking from that perspective is the issue. Like, just Sticko wasn't the problem, I think. And even if you had someone, I mean, if you had someone with the same role that you can replace Sticko with, which was NBK, which was kind of something they tried but it didn't work out, that would be a good pick. But other than that, I just don't see anyone that it doesn't make sense to make a change just for making a change.
I mean, also, something interesting was, I think, was it Oscar or one of the other guys who actually lifted the veil a little bit about what Sticko actually did in the team, apart from playing support position, and I think not second in-game leading, but at least doing work when he was dead, calling for players that couldn't speak. I don't see Snacks doing that. You have to wonder also what's going through your mind if you're Sticko right now. Like, so you're getting close to being benched for Dennis.
Yep.
First of all, and no one tells you this, and then you get benched for Snacks with and not even have your teammate telling you this, and now you see, like, I wonder how that guy's feeling, right? Because he's emotional, you know. I wonder what it would be like to be that guy.
I feel like Sticko is not the person to be too hung up about that. He's even tweeted about it in the Twitlonger thing where he talked about Cloud9 and his time there and kind of like going back to the Mousesports thing, and then he said like he's completely open to coming back. Like, he doesn't feel any he's not feeling like hateful towards the other players for removing him or anything. And I feel like the other side of the rest of the team feels the same way. I don't think there's bad blood between the two sides. So Sticko is just not the type of person to do that. I don't think he's going to be feeling any bad about coming back into the team. Quite the opposite, actually. I feel like this is something that could bring his confidence back and kind of assure him that he actually did have a place on the team and he was doing the right things. So this could actually be a really good comeback for him.
Yeah, I think Sticko is a pretty consummate professional. Of all the players I've spoken to at events, I think he's probably up there with some of the most professional. I don't think he would let something like that kind of come in between, especially considering it's not like his stock is very high, right? Like, if he was entertaining offers from 5 or 6 different teams, then yeah, maybe he tells Mouse, to fuck off just to kind of spite them and prove a point. But I think at this point, I think he definitely heads back. I think you kind of want to be in that environment. You want to see if you can get back towards being competitive in events. I think more than anything, the struggles of Mousesports, and it's impressive. This is how bad the struggles of Mousesports are when we're talking about them instead of them just winning New York. Like, that New York run just seems to have been just some giant mistake. I mean, people want to talk about the Cloud9 winning the major as a fluke. Look at this win from Mousesports. No one gives a shit about it. We're all just saying what a mess this team is. So that's pretty impressive. And I think more than anything for Sticko, that's an indication of what he can bring to a team, of what he was able to provide them, and what people can't see, because a lot of the things he does are going to be not showing up on a scoreboard, aren't going to be showing up in the HLTV page when you open up in the post game. Thanks for that, guys. But like he's just one of those players where he does contribute a lot more than that people don't see. And I think Mousesports now better have a real appreciation for what he brought to the squad.
All right, so let's move on to the next, like I said before, the next topic, because there were some pretty funny circumstances from Mouse going out against Big yesterday. Obviously, we're gonna need to, I guess, unroll the whole situation and talk a little bit about what actually happened, because there was certainly a lot of drama, I guess, surrounding that. Who wants to be the guy that actually unfolds it all and tells it like it is? Because there was some stuff going on. Reddit's been on fire for the last 24 hours.
I think Striker knows these details the best.
Do you think he was noticed?
I mean, I don't know specifically. I mean, I don't want to put anybody on the spot because I know what I've obviously talked to Oscar about it and I asked him about it, but I'm not going to say what he told me because I'm just not going to throw him under the bus. But I mean, it's obvious that they, like Peter tweeted, I think it's obvious that Smooya got on their skin. And watching I think it was Hasi who tweeted like a video from the demo or like a screenshot from the demo with how Chris J reacted to Smooya asking if they can reset. Like, that's a stupid question because he misbought. That's your fault. Like you shouldn't ask for a reset, but it's just a question, right? You shouldn't get triggered by that. And Chris J obviously did. Like he was obviously pretty triggered by that by just the question, like if guys can reset on the spot.
Someone just said in the chat that you're from Chechnya, so I just the best meme.
Fuck off. Thank you very much. But yeah, now I've lost my train of thought.
Thanks.
Yeah, this guy literally destroyed.
I think you have to also consider that there was stuff going on even before that, because Smooya said that he crashed in the first round, right? From his words on our side, was that his screen crashed in the middle of the first round?
That was a whole different thing, right? The first round. But I mean, he kind of explained it in the interview where he said that it was just like his monitor, so he could still move, but he just didn't see anything. And I could even see that on the camera. I remember watching that game and seeing that happen. That like everybody from Big is super passive, and like Mouse is on A side, 5v5, and nothing is happening. I just see Smooya's camera because his POV was on the stream, right? And he's just like throwing his arms around and just like, watch my screen, like I don't see anything. So that was obviously just some sort of a crash, not a big deal. Maybe it played into Mousesports' head, and that's kind of why they reacted the way they did, because they may have felt like they got robbed of a pistol round, because obviously they lost it afterwards, like in the replay. So what is that? Oh yeah, that's the screen. Nice. But yeah, you can see from that reaction that Chris J was not in a good place at that point, and that's just. What was that score at that time? Like some
4-0.
5-0.
4-0, yeah.
4-0, and you're triggered by that just by a question. So it feels like they overreacted.
I know Moses is gonna be triggered by this.
Well, I don't think that Chris J is so triggered just by Smooya. Obviously, that's what put him over the edge, but I think that's a big indication for some of the struggles that's actually going on within the Mousesports team to begin with, because we've seen hundreds of times that maybe even the community doesn't realize the amount of times a game has had to be restarted, or someone's PC has crashed, or a monitor has messed up at an event, and just a round has had to be reloaded and restarted. And everyone understands that those problems, all the players get it. And I think, there's a combination of Smooya maybe, talking some smack, maybe being annoying, getting under the skin, but I think the bigger thing is that he's driven to the edge by some of the issues with his own team, and Smooya is kind of that force that pushes him over the edge. So obviously that shouldn't. But I mean, just in general, that I'm so tilted by that screenshot. That should never be made public. That should never be a public feature of that chat between those two players. But we can get to that later. I don't want to get in. Let's not detract so much from this main point. I think that was my big issue, because I put out that tweet yesterday saying that people should just forget about what's tweeted and who's yelling after a route and who's doing what, and that wasn't necessarily aimed at Mousesports to begin with, because I know they've come out as well afterwards and said it wasn't necessarily just about the yelling, it was about not or asking for that restart and disrupting the flow of the game, blah blah blah, whatever it might have been. It's just these are situations where it's just. Players need to kind of prove their point inside the server, and who cares if Smooya is talking some smack to you? Who cares about that kind of stuff? And obviously, Chris is still tilted, as you can see that the tweet is brought up. And I mean, I'm fine with all this. Like, this is all fine. You think he's disrespectful? Fine, come out and say it on Twitter. But next time you play the game, you better beat him. This is the great part. This just kind of builds up a little bit more excitement, and even Smooya understands it more so than some of the vets. Where he comes out and he's like, if Mousesports wants a rivalry, we'll see what happens. So, and if Mousesports wants that rivalry, then they have to win as well. So props to Big Clan, and obviously a tough blow for Mousesports. But I think a lot of that got overblown about him entirely being disrespectful. I as a former player, I think I'm someone who would prone to get annoyed by the style of smack talk that Smooya has as well. Like, even just reading that kind of exchange in the server, I got a little bit tilted when Smooya was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know. I'm new here." And it's like that is a little bit of a weasel way to kind of shove it back at his face. And that would tilt me off the face of the earth. But I mean, on the outside, I obviously think it's hilarious.
To be honest, though, that was pretty fair, because what Tizian explained afterwards was that's what happened at the major, right? They actually they misbought, and they were allowed to replay the round or redo the buy
that's
round.
A weird decision to allow people to like.
We can agree on that.
You're
a professional
in this game.
And definitely we can say that there are some admins here that should probably have I mean, disavowed all this and probably should have made it so that this never happened, right? But you can't blame him for at least being like, oh, so here's the reason why I'm saying this, right? And he is the new guy. I mean, how long has he been a pro? A couple of years?
Not even that.
Yeah. But and that's
like
my
half
thing.
a year, really.
That's actually my
let's say
biggest
more.
pet peeve about being tilted by this guy is that I know he is who he is, but it's not like he has this massive experience behind him or that he's some kind of big figure in the community and that his words have a lot of weight, you know? Yeah, I mean, you should be able to just treat it like what it is.
The thing is, like, people, like the general population of CS watching people, they're talking so much shit about Smooya right now. Like, oh, he's the villain of CSGO. He's doing this and that. He's just literally not doing anything. He's just like some kind of trolly UK kid that does whatever he does. He doesn't really talk smack. He doesn't really insult other people. He had like a few things, but nothing big.
Like
I don't know.
Moses, you gotta move your mic a little bit, man. You're breathing into it.
I feel like
it's triggering me.
I feel like Smooya, though, he did sometimes like step a little bit over the line. I think even at StarSeries, like who did they lose to first? Was it Fraxters? I think it was Fraxters that they lost to, and he tweeted and instantly deleted it after, by the way.
Oh yeah,
losing to some noobs or whatever. So it's just like that's the type of stuff that you kind of want to see, but then again, like obviously, like people are not going to like him for it.
Honestly, that all felt like just him being like. Just being feeling bad about himself, not really that much about the other team, because he had tweets before and after that as like, I'm feeling like shit, I can't do anything in the servers, blah blah. I don't know. I mean, of course it's kind of an insult saying that you lost to the noobs, but it didn't really seem like it was aimed at anyone else, just him being frustrated and stuff like that. So whatever. I don't know.
What do you guys make of the Crims tweet? Did you guys see that?
What do you mean?
Oh, I think it was your boy Oscar actually who followed up on the Chris J one, where he said like, I'm not gonna say anything about that British kid. Yeah. And Crims, I think it was up for a couple of minutes maximum. Well, I'm gonna do it for you. The guy's a piece of shit, basically, right?
Oh, okay.
And I don't know. I saw like JW joining in, like, and then Flaming Legia. Like, what the fuck is going on? You're not even at the tournament. Like,
that was
what
pretty friendly, though. I feel like the thing between JW and Legia. I feel like
it was funny.
That was funny as hell, though. That thread. I even retweeted that thread and just like said, like, guys, just read this. This is amazing. And so that with that we kind of get to the point.
JW scrolling through his wins. That was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The video of him just like with his phone, like scrolling through the first places in the Liquipedia or whatever it was. That's just funny. And that's like I said, that's how we get to your question, right? Is there, or like the topic, does CSGO have too little or too much banter? I feel like it's too little. Like this is the stuff that I kind of want to see, even if it's just whether it's actually kind of spiteful or whether it's friendly. I feel like this just adds so much more to the scene.
But I don't necessarily think it's too. It is a little bit weird because I don't like. There are times where we have a good amount of banter and we have like a healthy amount, but there's so much backlash. Like no one wants to be the guy who throws a little bit of like fun banter at the opponent, and then they happen to lose the game, and then they just get wrecked on social media for like a week and maybe even longer for that. Next time you go for some banter, someone's going to remind them that the last time you did this, they lost, and it's just silly. So I think the majority of the problem comes from the fact that, obviously when you banter, you're doing it to make a little bit of a show for the community, but there's so much backlash to it. It's not like even Config got scared away from it. So
that's because he went.
He did go a bit hard, and then I think he got like 60-0'd by MSL, and I guess that'll kind of shut everyone up on it. But it's one of those things where it's not even necessarily about like banter and about like super in-depth smack talk, because I've been one of the people who've been most vocal about wanting a little bit more attitude between teams and players. But I just want the interviews that players give. Like, there's no way in hell every single team actually thinks, and every single player actually thinks, that every team in the world down to like the top 25 teams is dangerous on any given day. You know, like there's no way that a team comes in and is just like,
That's the biggest lie
oh,
of CS:GO, isn't it?
yeah, where it's just like, oh, literally anyone could beat anyone at any given day. It's a best of one. You know, I'm not feeling too confident because these guys have shown some good things,
Yeah.
and I really think they have a chance. And it's like, just be honest. Like, you don't have to like talk shit about them. You don't have to say they're a terrible team, but just come in and say, listen, we think we're a lot better. We think that we're going to beat these guys. We think we have a better map pool. We can take, you know, whatever it might be. Just like tell the truth. And I think that in itself would be so much better, would be so much healthier, because then we actually have some things we can use. But there is like this overcompensation, like for an industry of professional players who haven't had PR training for interviews, like they're remarkably good at speaking without actually saying anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's my
Are,
biggest fear, is that we continue down that path and then get even worse.
are
This
you
is
sure they didn't have PR training? I mean, I can't,
Well, I mean,
I
some
can't
of
believe
them-
that.
some
Some of
some
these
teams
teams,
have.
I'm like, they surely had.
I mean, Astralis and Cloud9 definitely had some pure training, like 100%. There's no way they didn't. Like after interviewing them for the longest like time ever, for like 2 years straight or something, like there's no way they didn't.
But it's funny you mentioned Astralis, because they actually do what Moses just said, right? They like we talked about on the last show. They do actually go out and claim superiority often in their interview. I know they also have the tiny little we're never too overconfident, but they do go out and say, I think we're better than this team, and
I
we're
think
better
they're
than that
doing
team.
it like kind of as I said in the
Yeah.
last show. They do it like smartly. They throw in like small hints, things like people can use, and kind of play with the minds of their opponents and stuff like that. So they're doing it. They're still like pretty safe in what they say, but they kind of throw in this and that, and especially like now that they really do have the option to say whatever they want, because everyone's just on the Astralis hype train. Even other teams are like hyping them up so much that's insane. Like, oh, Astralis is so good. I want to play anyone except Astralis. That's like the new default answer.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And
I mean,
Astralis should be
fair,
like that. Like we do need the front running team to be like that, and make yourselves a target. I mean, Astralis is doing an amazing job of raising the entire level of the pro scene, from the way you practice and prepare to the way that you have to conduct yourselves as professionals, to like in every regard they are raising the bar. So I want them to keep up that little bit of swagger to them, and see where that goes, and have a team eventually try and catch up to them. Like we don't have anyone close to catching up to them. So I'm happy they're doing it. I want more of it. I want to see Device come out and say he's going to bang out every opera in the game. I think it'd be fun as hell.
He did,
Yeah, I mean,
and
he's
he's gonna
always-
use the
he's never gonna
organ
do
the
it.
star and the
Let's all
SG
talk
for
at
it.
the same time. Thank
Yeah, sorry. Let's get back to your point, Moses. I want to show this again, because just to fire you up once again, the screenshot from the game
Oh,
between
great.
Big and
Yeah, here we
Mousesports.
go.
Yeah. So what goes on in the picture is obviously the some of the stuff that leads to Chris J's tweets, all that. They're arguing in the alt chat, right? Chris J's triggered. He's calling them retard. We don't want to till someone says taps, and then the my favorite part of it is the last one. Okay, so you won't let me rebuy when I bought the auto. Time for the Doom Hammer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So okay, Moses, that's pretty funny, huh?
Yeah, but this should never be made public. This shouldn't be
No, that's
available to
true.
anyone, whether it's through a demo, whether it's through the stream. Because I know even at the major, even at the major when the GoTV is public and you can just connect through the client, you can see all this shit. And the problem is, look at Chris. Obviously, he shouldn't call anyone a retard. Although I do think retard is a word that we should be able to claim back in some fashion. But I mean, like, you put him in a stressful situation where his team that has been practicing, they just won New York, now they're on the verge of collapse. They went out last place at the major. They've had these massive ups and downs. Obviously something isn't going well within the team. They're competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They have thousands of hours practicing, and you put him in this kind of a stressful situation, and of course it shouldn't happen, but there's definitely going to be slip-ups, whether it's Chris J, whether it's another player in the future, and it's definitely at some point going to get worse than retard. And this is now a situation where you can look at it from so many different angles. I mean, if you look at it from a player, obviously saying something inappropriate like retard, like some comment that could be taken the wrong way, like some banter with a friend that the community takes and perceives in an improper way, can cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars in endorsements and in future endorsements, whatever it might be, fines. And then you go to think of it in the other direction now. Think of it for a player who's sponsored. Let's go to the last major where they were having so many computer issues. What happens if a player in this chat is publicly, or is not publicly, but he's criticizing the PCs being used because they're not performing up to par, and then that company who supplied those PCs is a sponsor of his team organization or of him, and he just doesn't realize it. What if it's conflicting with some sponsor, and then all of a sudden he's got to go explain himself? All of a sudden, a sponsor pulls out for the organization that he's now playing for, and his contract gets whatever it might be. That's an issue that can happen. That shouldn't be made public. Then you think of it from a TO perspective. What about the sponsor who comes on to sign on to a TO and supply the computers? And obviously they should be supplying the best gear possible, but there's still always going to be issues. Everyone, no matter what level of competition is, there's going to be PC issues. And then all of a sudden you have hundreds of thousands of players or hundreds of players complaining about the PCs, and then it gets on the front page of Reddit, and then it's got 200,000 views, and the sponsor is like, we didn't sign up to get this negative PR.
And
Twitter they pull
anyway.
out.
That's going to be on Twitter anyway.
That's obviously fine, but it shouldn't be the public chat, because you never know what someone is going to say in a moment of frustration that you can no longer take back. At least in Twitter, you can get frustrated and you can spit something out, but your mind isn't focused on the competitive aspect of the game. There's a reason why when you watch a professional sport, anytime you go, if you're watching the NFL and you hear some like listen in with the quarterback on the sideline, it's edited. It's from 5 minutes later, and they make sure there's nothing wrong being said. They make sure there's no bad language in it. They cut it. They can remove it. They can change it up, whatever. So you need to protect the players in that respect, and I think this is a very dangerous thing.
I heard Ray Lewis say something that's even worse than this. But this was some years back anyway. But...
Listen, there are obviously some people, as we know in the Counter-Strike scene, who are a little bit more impervious to what they say than others. But you either way, we have the ability to take this risk away. Like, why don't we do it? Not like, by the way, 99 out of 100 matches, we don't see anything in the chat anyways. So what's the point of keeping it? It's not like we're getting anything from it.
That, like, imagine if like you said, like you used the NFL example, right? Imagine if you just basically were able to hear everything on a football pitch, like everything that the players say to each other or whatever. That's kind of the same thing, right? So that's just, you're right in that this should just be disabled. Like, I don't know if that's possible in some way, if you can disable like all chat being viewed in a demo or whatever, however that works. I don't even know if there's a possibility to do that at this point.
But isn't this kind of holding?
Should be added.
Isn't this kind of holding the viewers in very like low regard? That you're saying that so the average viewer won't be able to tell if this might be friendly banter, or they can also understand why
they've already shown they can't tell.
Yeah, sure.
They've already shown in the past, not necessarily with this one, but there have been situations in the past where players have come out and been like, guys, this is a non-issue. We're all friends. There's parts of the community are still pissed that Fnatic didn't shake hands with NIP in 2013. Like, it's not about holding them in a low regard. It's like, by the way, the only thing we ever get from these chats is drama, whether it's drama aimed at players, whether it's drama aimed at TOs, whether it's drama aimed at teams. And like, you don't get anything positive from it. Everything we get from it is negative. So just take it away. And here's the thing. It's not about what was said in this instance. I don't give a shit that Chris J said retard. It doesn't change the way I think of him at all. I think he's a great guy. But it's about what can be said in the future, whether it is something insulting or whether it is something that is going to be damaging from a business side. So it's not something that I think should be public. It's not something that, I mean, people want to say this is some kind of a public match. It's not. It's 10 players in a server. This isn't a public match in any way. It's private. That's why there's a password on the server. Like, there's so many different arguments that people try and put forward that are just bad, and these chats just there's no need for them. We don't get anything from it. That's what I don't understand. Why is everyone up in arms about protecting the fact that players or that the community can see chat when you don't gain anything from it at all? 99 times out of 100, all we get is bad stuff.
Well, every now and again you just see something like sorry wrong vibe from NBK, like when you did the negative face or whatever. If anybody of you remembers that, but it's just like, like you said, it's most of the time it's just mostly it's bad and doesn't add anything.
I'm not sure I'm buying that argument about it being private. I mean, after all, this is showing it to millions of people. I mean, I know that's not the chat, but at least the whole match is. The purpose of this thing is to be broadcast.
Well,
why would you just is broadcast?
Why wouldn't you just tell players to like then hold back in the chat? I mean, what's their reason for having?
The reason is that no one looks at that chat 99 out of 100 times, and so people feel like even though it is somewhere stored, you don't really think about it as it is. you just think about it, oh, it's just the 10 of us here and the admins and that's it. So that's kind of the thinking you have when you're playing the game. At least I feel like.
Yeah,
so even
you
if,
definitely don't expect people to see what you're typing, right? Like when you're talking during a match, and especially like I think Moses alluded to it. It's just you're not focused on what you're saying. Like you're just trying to be competitive, right? You're just trying to play the game at that point, and you're not thinking about like whatever you're saying. Like it's just that's
But
kind
that's
of like
part of the
emotional
charm.
responses.
Isn't that part of the charm about professional sports? And
But I mean, can you give me one sport where you can hear what people are saying to each other, like teams, what people are saying to each other in teams? But like I can't come up with anything where you can tell what people are saying to each other on a field or whatever.
I think like Suarez got like a 3-month suspension or something for saying an inappropriate word.
Well, usually
that'll be out
that
anyway.
word,
Right?
right?
Either
You don't
you'll
actually
a while
hear
back.
it.
you'll lip
You don't
read it or
actually hear it,
someone,
though.
or they'll reconstruct it. I guess. I mean.
But yeah, but like
I don't think soccer players won't run on the field and think that their speech is protected on there, or that it's. I'm not really buying that argument.
Why? That it's private?
Yeah.
Why? It's a private match between 10 people that they're I mean, you look at it in this situation, you said why don't players just stay off the chat? And for the most part they do. But you get into a situation like this one with Chris J where you have to use, the chat to the other team to figure out why the hell they're pausing it for no reason and probably against the rules. And then all of a sudden you have that emotional outburst. And that chat should not be public. That should be available to admins because you never know what's going to happen. Like what happens in that situation when when they're chatting, and what if it's a technical issue and it's like you have the right to, and you ask the other team, hey, can you guys restart? And then all of a sudden they're bad sports. Maybe it's as small as that. Again, that's a decision that shouldn't even be in the players' hands. We shouldn't even be able to expose that chat to the public. There's no point for it being there, and it's not part of the gameplay.
One thing I'll give you is also that this can be manipulated so easily. Like there might be something before this screenshot that we haven't seen, or in other circumstances we might only see a part of it, and then that's by chance is the one that read the post that goes to the top, and then we don't have the full.
I mean, even if you record the whole demo, go through the demo, you don't record the demo from the warm up or whatever. Something can happen in the warm up that triggers something later on. So in that regard, definitely not a full. Doesn't say the full story about anything. Someone can say something to someone, just walk up to him and say like, you're a piece of shit before the match.
Can I say something one more time? Because I've seen this in the Twitch chat a couple times today, and I got it on Twitter yesterday, and I don't know why I have to explain this, because apparently people don't understand what the word is, but this is not censorship. This is not a form of this is not restricting what players can say. It's simply making sure that in a competitive chat between two teams that can at times get spicy, is not going to ruin personal branding, business relationships. Like we're just protecting players from something stupid that can happen in the heat of a moment that they can't ever take back. So this isn't a form of censorship. So please don't.
No, it's definitely
be idiots.
It has nothing to do with it.
Warpick
that doesn't make any sense, honestly. Like,
Warpick says Moses must be funny at parties.
I'm
think
fucking awesome at parties, by the way.
I believe that, honestly. I believe it.
Yeah, but nothing ever gets out from the parties, and that's the difference, right?
Well, we did have that issue. We did have that issue.
Yeah. A couple.
Good
of
old
times
Zeus video from the after party.
I guess that kind of goes for the same, right? Any closing thoughts about?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. When you mentioned Device earlier, Device put out a tweet saying like, why does everyone want more banter? We have to see each other at events every day. You can't really hate everyone, blah, blah, which is true. Like, you will still mostly have like friendly relationships with most of the players, even if you have like a bantery, like, I don't know, rivalry between like you and another team. It doesn't have to be you and every team in the circuit. That doesn't make sense. You don't have to practice with one team, but you can practice with 15 other teams that are also very good. That are like 30 in Europe, whatever. So that logic doesn't make sense to me. I just want to reply to that in a way.
So do we all agree that more banter is fine?
I mean, obviously there's a line, right? Like we had another little situation with Thorn just the other day where that definitely crossed the line. The Thorn and Tizian thing. That's an example of banter crossing the line. And I mean,
that wasn't even banter, honestly. That was just Tizian being tilted
probably
and
frustration. Yeah.
So there's always that line, and as long as it's not crossed, and I think this is something that players a couple of years ago had to kind of deal with when we started having more broadcasts. Is there's a difference between like a personal relationship and a business relationship. Like sometimes I have to criticize a play like I have to criticize a player for my opinion of how he played a game or played a situation, and then I'm friends with them outside of the professional environment, and we have to be able to kind of separate those two and be okay with it. I think most players have gotten to that point, but obviously there's always a line that you just can't cross.
Yeah.
I mean, Anders kind of hit the nail on the head
Yeah,
with the history. If you saw that, where he said something like, "There's no
I have
balance
him
to be
muted.
had. Like you can't."
Is that after your counter
Okay,
quiz
so
showing?
tell me why first before I continue.
No, I don't actually have him muted.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. But he said something along the lines of that there's no balance to be had, really. There's just like you're always gonna have like go back and forth between too much, like crossing the line, and too little, which is somewhat where at which point we're now. I think that we're on the lower end of the spectrum. We rarely see anything kind of like exciting about and bantery and like rivalry creating and things like that. But yeah, it's always like you're always gonna step over the line, and then people will be a little bit more careful about what they say for a while, and then somebody does it again and stuff like that. We're just always gonna go back and forth.
Well,
At this point, I'd like a little bit more, but not too much.
Uptick is playing better and better, so you just wait a few weeks.
Yeah, Config's gonna get
You
his
will,
confidence back. Like
you will see something before too long, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like Config is just only like he's only taking a break for a second because he's just said so much stuff that went against him because Optic have been losing so much recently that like he's just maybe he just thinks he's jinxing his team or whatever it is, but
Or he
like
grew
he's
up.
gonna come back. Like when they start winning again and when they start looking good, which is like at this point right now, now that they've broken a streak of those early exits with the playoffs appearance. Then Config's gonna go back for sure.
Plus, we also have a new French team, so I guess that's
Hell
also
yeah.
gonna that's gonna help him as well, I think.
Oh, you mean him specifically?
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
So guys, moving on. This was obviously the biggest topic within the last 24 hours, I guess, but also a little bit before that, we had a new change to the client with changing up the money system, which now means you get more money from losing at the start, or that's actually one wrong way to say it. I'll let you fine gentlemen, because I know you, Striker, actually looked into this a little bit more in depth than I did. If you can just explain for me.
Well, basically, it's just like the start of the half loss bonus, right? It's just basically been moved up one round. So it's like when you lose the pistol round, you get 1900 as the base loss bonus plus like bonuses based on whatever bomb plants and whatever else kills and stuff. But like the baseline is at 1900, but only after the pistol round. That's only set for the pistol round. Like any other way, you whenever you lose the like your first round. In the other cases, you can actually see the first round on the screen. Yeah, but yeah. Originally, it was 1400 after the pistol round loss. Now it's 1900. But like I said, like in any other case where you lose your first round, then you'll still, outside of a pistol round, you're still gonna get those 1400. This is only set up so that like the pistol rounds don't have as much impact on a match, because obviously like when you win the pistol round, you're kind of expected to go 3-0. And now that's kind of going to be shifted to potentially a 2-0, but maybe not so much. I feel like this could go both ways. Like now, obviously, you in the second round, like you say, like you see on the screen, when you lose the first round, you get 1900, which is obviously quite a significant amount for like a force buy, especially if you get a couple of kills with it, or if you get a bomb plant with it. You can buy so much more on the second round force buy that I feel like it's not going to change much in terms of like the second round force buys.
And here's round 3, right? So that's the whole breakdown.
That's exactly the point, right? Like now the meta should be somewhere along the lines of, you lose the pistol round, then you take a full eco or like a half buy or whatever if you had the bomb plant, and then you buy up in the third round instead of the fourth, right? Which was kind of the meta before. So this is kind of the base that we're going to be looking at in the next months, I think. But like I said, I think because of the fact that when it goes 1-1, the lost bonus resets to 1400 again for the team that loses the second round. I feel like we're still going to see a lot of second round force buys. I don't think that's going to change too much.
Yeah, I think that the same. That's my feeling at least, especially because players are hard to change their ways, and the way now is like you lose the first round, you force buy
Force
next.
buy,
It's
yeah.
like an instant buy, so it's gonna be hard to like shift that kind of mentality for number one and number two. Yeah, the thing you mentioned, like if you win the pistol and then lose to a force, then you're back to 1,400, which is kind of
Yeah.
even worse than winning, just like losing both rounds. So I don't know. I think the force buys will continue in the second round, and we'll just see better buys in the fourth round for the
Yeah,
CTs
exactly.
at least. And for the Ts, I think it could be pretty weird because just like a bomb plant, and if you save some money in the pistol, you get a bomb plant in the second round and even lose. You get maybe a couple of kills with the Glock. You'll have so much money in the second round that it kind of makes sense to just force buy in the second like that.
I feel like we're going to see more of those, like those AK buys, like that Navi is kind of sometimes
Yeah.
using at this point, where they just like lose the pistol, but they get the bomb plant down, and they get a couple of kills, obviously, because before just the bomb plant wasn't enough to buy AKs. You still had to get a couple of kills with the pistols to get there as well, to get to the 2.7. And I feel like that's what we're going to see a lot more, especially on the T side now that the basically you get a 500 extra on top of that. And you actually get to 2.7 on its own, like when you get a bomb plant and lose the first round. So that I think is something that we're going to see a little bit more now.
I think that's actually really dangerous, is the fact that you can get those AK-47s, and if, like you said, because I think the same thing is going to happen. I think we'll see more of those AK buys, and instead of just one being dropped over to Simple, all of a sudden you get a plant, and you're going to be able to, why aren't Edward and Zeus dropping one to Electronic and Simple? And then
And
all
then
of
you
a sudden,
get a deal or like even a scout back, right? Because you can get a
yep.
vest and then maybe a couple of. So you actually have a very good buy.
And also, I think it's going to be more punishing to CT sides if they win the pistol and lose the second round, and all of a sudden you have a crazy economy on the T side, and you have an even more punished one. But a lot of this is going to be theory. We'll see how it plays out. I think this can significantly, let's say the teams don't buy in the second round, I feel like this can significantly change. I think the nice thing for it is if a CT team wins the pistol, T side just full saves on the second round. I think it can be much easier for CT sides to establish themselves early on before the fifth round, or really both sides.
Hmm.
Because how many times have we seen a match where a team has gone down 0-5 while they try and build up a losing bonus? We see it all the time on Inferno with CT teams, and then they end up winning like 9-6 or 8-7 or 10-5, whatever it might be, because they have the money finally after building up the losing bonus. And I think this makes that path a little bit quicker for
Yeah, for
both
sure.
sides.
Yeah,
Like
like
Prop
just
said, it's just.
just AWP on banana, for example. If you get to hold that down a little bit quicker, I guess we won't see the same.
Yeah, but I mean, like Prof said, like now that's it's going to impact round four a lot more. Like we said, I think the second round force buys are not going to change that much. I think people will still go for that, and they're just still going to go for those half buys, force buys to try to like shift the economy back in their favor. But obviously now in the fourth round, if they lose that force buy and then they take a full eco, the CTs will suddenly have 5.3 instead of 4.3. At which point they could only afford like an M4 and a vest, maybe one grenade if they went for like the just the vest, right? And
I mean, screw the fourth round. I think the third round will start being the new buy. If a CT team
yeah, no,
loses
obviously
pistol, yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But like
yeah,
if we see those second round force buys, then
yeah.
we're obviously they're gonna have to take a full eco if they lose that, right? So
Yeah.
so that's what I'm saying. Like even if they do continue with those force buys, this time it's not actually going to be that detrimental to the
Yeah,
economy on the
I think we
fourth.
just need to like separate discussion on the like if the CT wins the pistol and if the T wins the pistol, because I feel like the CT winning the pistol thing was gonna be pretty rough, because just look at it from this perspective. Like if you plant the bomb as T, you get 2,700 now and lose a round. And if you save money, if you just don't invest in the pistol, which I think could be a decent tactic now, especially because CTs like to play retake on pistols, like on train, let's say B site. It's easy to get the bomb plant down. You don't even you need like a smoke and a
I think
flash.
it's too risky, honestly.
I don't know. Just hear me out. If you get the plant, you have 2,700 plus 800 for the plant, so that's almost
35.
three and a half. Yeah, 3.5 plus if you get for the planter is 300 plus any kill is 300. So you have the same amount of money as the CT has when they just win the round. And CT economy, you need more money to buy stuff. You need the defuse kit. You need the guns are more expensive. So I feel like it can be pretty pretty rough to hold out those like T side early buys on like the second round moving forward. That's at least my feeling. Theory crafting a bit. Obviously, when we see it function in game, will be different.
I'm not entirely sure that I see this as a viable thing. Maybe somebody will try it, but I don't think it's going to catch on. I feel like you still have, if you get that bomb plan, you still have such a pretty solid buy in the second round that's actually saving money, like saving those $650 for a vest or like a few grenades. I think that's going to help you win the pistol round so much more, and then help you establish the economy more, that the people are not going to take that risk. At least I don't think it's going to ever become a thing. Like I said, some teams will definitely try it. I do see that as something that will be tried a couple of times before people realize it's actually not that great.
There was an old pistol round strategy before we fixed the economy system the first time back in like 2004. There was
Oh,
a
this
theory
is way.
behind. Yeah, this is way back. But so when you lost a round as the CT side, if the terrorists, like the way the economy worked way back then was if the terrorists saved all their weapons, you wouldn't get any money. It'd be like, you know how you kind of lose, you don't make any money if you stay after a round timer and you
Yeah.
survive. That could happen to CT sides as well. So if terrorists saved all their weapons and you didn't kill all 5, you wouldn't get any bonus money, or you would get very little. So terrorist teams could just kind of save 3 AK-47s, and you just kind of, you have 2 players who are dead and have to rebuy, but they're just kind of stuck without a whole lot of money to use in the next round. It was a very strange way to do it. So
Jesus.
there was a few pistol rounds on like I mean, these were on like some crazy maps like Prodigy back in the day, but the T side on pistol round would just all 5 players would go sit in a corner and stack and set up all these weird crossfires in like a choke point heavy room somewhere, and they would just not even try and win the round. So when the next round came, the CTs, they'd bought everything in the pistol round and blah blah blah, and then they'd go into the second round and they'd only have like 1,500 to spend, but the terrorist team, because they saved, would have like 25 or $3,000 to spend. So you could actually have a situation where you were playing against armored up pistols with like SMGs and maybe with like a Galil or something like that and full nades and shit. So like that it'll be funny to see if teams can actually try and figure out a way to kind of exploit the fact of that extra $500. I don't think it's going to be worth it in the long run, and definitely not on that scale. But I think it'll be fun to see teams experimenting with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a change that I really welcome this kind of change to economy, because we haven't had any big changes to economy ever since basically that thing about T side, like what you talked about now, that you don't get any money. That actually wasn't the case at the start of CS:GO. On T side, we saw even Quantic, I think it was, kind of like using this on Nuke, where they just like sat on T spawn in the second round after they lost the pistol, so that the other team doesn't get any extra money, and they just full saved the second round, and obviously they got the money because the basically the restriction wasn't there yet. And I think that was like the first year of CS:GO, or maybe like even first half a year. I don't remember exactly, but that was the case in CS. And since then, we haven't had any changes to economy, and that's an aspect of the game that's a little bit underrated. I feel like people don't. I mean, obviously analysts talk about it a lot, but just people don't think about it all that much, because it's been the same for such a long time that they don't think about how it can be improved and how it can be changed.
Yeah,
So I feel like this is really cool.
I'm actually hoping for changes like this to have more casual viewers, or at least those a bit like a step above casual, to invest more time in reading and understanding the economy side.
Sure.
Just the change. I hope that the change itself will bring it. And there's a guy in chat also, Tamer, that says we should change the money system more often, just to change the meta for a bit. And there's a bit of a discussion about that going on.
No.
I don't
Jason,
think so,
what
no.
what are your thoughts about that? Having to learn something new to cast from, like every other month.
Oh, that'd be an absolute nightmare. But even so, the tough part is no one even really figures out how the money system really, like, it takes months to figure out how a change like that is
gotta
going
get
to
a
affect
feeling
the game.
for it, right?
Yeah, and like if you're changing it, every 6 months, then you're never actually going to see the benefits or negatives from whatever you changed. And the money, there's a lot of things that we could tinker with. If the goal is to keep the game fresh, there's a lot of ways to tinker with the game than messing with the money system, because I think the economy is one of those things that is like the butterfly effect. One small change can just ruin everything. Like if you change it too much, all of a sudden, the money system is what separates that historically has separated Counter-Strike from all the other shooters in
Yeah, that's true.
the genre. Like that has been the most appealing factor to it. So if you change that money system, all of a sudden you could just wreck and take stuff away. So we need to be very careful with the money system. I'd much rather see them Valve tinker with maps, whether it's adding more maps in, whether it's changing the maps we currently have, whatever it might be. I had a couple ideas, talked with them in London about that, for map changing. But there's many other things that I would touch before the economy system.
I mean, you have pros not even being totally up to par with if anyone was watching the Astralis counter quiz.
I thought you were well. Okay.
Yeah, that were you had something else in mind, but that
No.
you had two of the best players in the world, and Device was pretty good at it. And Dupree even, I think he says, so it's a kind of counter quiz. It was a question about you, like a given scenario, how much money do you have after this and this happens? And he was like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Hellraiser did that, right? Hellraiser had no idea, but I mean, we gave them a pretty hard one. To be fair, we gave them.
Oh, fuck off! You gave me Palf in an online game highlight.
That was exclusively for Anders.
The thing where we fucked up was that we put you up with Anders. That's the
that
mistake.
So for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, go watch the counter quiz episode with the Creamy Bears, aka Moses and Anders. I knew it was gonna come to this, so we might as well take it now before we change to the next subject. How you? What's PR work been for you, Jason, after that little incident?
That's fine. You know, it was. But I think most of the laughter was directed at Anders. We did have a lot of people getting mad that we didn't think of Coldzera and Olaf as the best players for those who were like 3 years or so.
The most prestigious awards.
The funny thing about that is, like, I don't even know why it took us so long to figure it out, because I've talked about it many times. I've referenced Coldzera as the best player in the world in 2016 and 2017 like 10 times when I'm casting games. And for whatever reason during that quiz, that part of my brain wasn't being accessed properly.
I feel like you used that line a lot more after the quiz, though.
Yeah, they were definitely
just making fun of you guys. Just like trying to. I mean, it was mostly Anders, I think, just like saying, "Oh, Coldzera, the best player of 2016 or 2017." We were making fun of you guys in the chat.
I noticed as well, you edited out a lot of the dead time in the other questions, but when we got to that one, you really just let us sit on camera and show that we couldn't remember who is the best player of 2017. So
I mean, we cut out just the dead parts where there was no jokes, right? Because there was so much. Like, there was 20 minutes where we just laughed the entire time. It was fun.
I think actually what people should also know that when they're watching the counter quiz, and there's going to be a second season, by the way, is that Prof and sometimes Striker, sometimes both, are actually kind of tilting to look at every once in a while. I think that it adds a bit of pressure, right? Would you say, Moses?
Listen, all I'm saying is in season 2, I say for the final episode, we sit those two down. Anders and I will make a quiz of our own Counter-Strike.
All right.
And we'll do some payback.
Let's do it.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
I mean, if you really want to rivalry, we'll see what happens, right?
You're gonna be spiteful though, and you're just gonna put like absolutely insane questions in there.
No, listen, we'll give you equal questions. We'll give you an online highlight clip as well. So.
Give me like Uno versus, I don't know.
To be fair,
I'm going to like tier 3 North America online.
That's not fair. This is at least like topical in some sense.
What if we actually get that one though? Like, would you be impressed?
Actually, I think something was entirely wrong with you if, for whatever reason, you had seen like tier 3 North American highlights.
Yeah, that's true.
There'd be massive mental issues going on that we'd have to discuss.
All right. Anyway,
we probably
going back
can
to the economy
either way.
Just quickly before we move on, right? I just
it.
wanted to say one more thing, which was that I think it'll be interesting to see whether people, especially ST, whether after terrorists win a pest round, how much the second round buy is gonna change, because obviously normally you would expect 2 rounds up against pistols because of the way the economy worked before, but now that you could expect like a 3rd round buy quite often. Like, are you gonna actually see more rifles in the second round? Because now we see a lot of SMGs in the second round a lot of the time. So I feel like that's another aspect that could change a little bit at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll take us at least 6 months until the meta really gets defined, how people usually buy and what's like the optimal way of approaching it, because we had the same economy system from the start of CSGO, and just like minor tweaks to weapons and some like new ideas coming in really changed how people buy, like radically, I think like 6 times at least. Like something like that about that. So it will take a lot of time until people are figuring out what's the best way to approach this new economy patch.
I feel like it's not going to change too much, honestly. Like if you think about it, it just moves up the loss bonus, right? So it's just like you're going to see whatever we see now in round 4, we're going to see that in round 3, and so on and so forth, right? It's not going to be very different. It's just going to be a little bit earlier. And
it's just the approach to those anti-ecos, especially like the second one, when you don't really have that much utility, or either you don't have the utility or you don't have the rifles, and you want the rifles so you can carry them on into the first buy round. So it might be kind of counter. I mean, I think one of the things that they wanted to eliminate is the kind of the semi-buy or whatever, the bonus round, which I honestly think is kind of, I'm not a fan of it. Like it's not that good to have bonus rounds and then another eco after that and all of that stuff. But it might just end up having like more of that things, because you have really no option if you just buy if you buy 5 AKs after you win the T pistol, then you won't have any utility. Then you can still lose to just like pistols without armor, like a couple of a small investment from the CD side. So it's gonna be that part. I think is gonna be the most interesting one.
Yeah,
I already changed the subject. So,
no worries. We can move on.
Especially since you guys already touched on it a little bit, and you, Moses, also, with the other changes that maybe can be done outside of the money system. The changes to some of the guns, some of the weapons that we have, the CC, the Tech 9, the SSG, and the AUG. How do you pronounce
AUG.
it?
I just say AUG.
Yeah. I have actually... what, Moses, I guess this is the same for you, right? It's not something that we hear a lot in casting, because the weapon's almost never bought. But, so... to just shortly talk about what happened, those two guns were reduced in price, and the CC became increased recoil and firing accuracy and improved accuracy recovery rate. The Tech 9 had adjustments to make the weapon more forgiving at medium rates of fire, which means reduced fire and accuracy, slightly improving accuracy recovery rate. So is this a return of the Tech 9 Fnatic era?
I think, well, the problem is we haven't seen enough of it, right? Like we can always look at the update, the changelog, whatever it is, and speculate. And I think that's like the previous update destroyed the Tech 9. Like the only thing you could do with it was basically like tap really, really slowly and kind of like not move too much. So that just wasn't as viable. So it just makes sense that they actually are trying to kind of bring it back and balance it again. So it just makes sense, because like the CZ has been super prevalent. Like the Tech 9, nobody was buying the Tech 9 like in the past couple of months. I don't think I've seen anybody actually buy the pistol on like consistently and regularly. So it makes sense that they changed it. This, like, based on the update, it should be a little bit better rounded. Like people should actually be able to tap with it a little bit more quickly, and it could be a little bit more viable. But like we're gonna have to see what kind of a difference it is, though.
I don't know what these changes are going to make. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we've seen so many times players actually dabble with the AUG and the Commando and everything, or in the Krieg, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I think we've seen it only actually effective. I think Magisk was the only one who made it like really look good with like one game, and he's tried it in a couple other ones, and it hasn't worked. So who knows with the money the way it is? Maybe I definitely we're going to see more people experiment with it. I know Elige has already come out and said he wants to use the AUG a little bit more. I know a lot of people are tempted by the ability to kind of tap when you're in that scope mode and how accurate and effective it can be. The question is, will you actually be able to make it effective in some kind of an execute when craziness is going on? So with those guns, we'll just have to find out, because I don't even think that even to this point we've fully seen them tested, just because no one's had the motivation with how expensive they are. Pistols will be interesting as long as we don't have any kind of craziness like the CZ and all these in the P250s, and I mean we can already see how effective they are with the increased amount of mobility. So as long as nothing sends it, none of these changes have sent them overpowered, which again I think much like the economy, changing strengths of a pistol are equally as kind of up in the air of which way it's going to go. So it's just going to take time, and with the the historic nature of these changes, I imagine we at least have them until the next major. So cross your fingers, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the AUG in Krieg is actually something I wrote about 3 years ago, a year and a half ago. Well, when I was writing about the UMP 45 meta when it was still super prevalent, which has now gone away a little bit because it has been nerfed since then. But I was writing about the UMP, and at the same time, it's kind of a side note, I brought up the AUG and Krieg as well, and I feel like it's just stats wise, the guns and even like recoil wise and everything, the guns are actually very viable. But like Moses said, nobody really had the motivation to actually test it out properly because they just had a higher price point and they didn't look like enough of an upgrade over an AK over an M4 that people just didn't want to start experimenting with it. So this time, now that the price point is basically the same as the M4 and AK, they're like 50 more, I think, for each. That it's like I'd be very surprised if more people didn't start experimenting with them and trying to see if that's actually something that can work. Because stats wise, the AUG is actually in very close range that can actually one-shot people, like something that P250 and 5.7 used to be able to do, and now isn't. So at about the same kind of range, the AUG can actually one-shot people, and the Krieg is just insane at like tapping with especially with the scope, but even without it, it's just so powerful. And the first bullet accuracy is actually better than with the AK. So like certain improvements are there. I think even like a year or 2 years from now, I think the M4 and AK will still be more prevalent just because the AUG and Krieg are still a little bit more situational because of the scope and because of how it limits your field of view and stuff. But it's definitely going to be something that's going to be used a little bit more in the next couple of months.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. It's Moses breathing into the mic is not because he's getting excited about the Tech 9 change.
Or because I'm out of shape, although I am. Apparently my key's
Something
getting
is
stuck.
getting him hot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Changes in the meta is all the caster wants, right?
That's
Yeah.
what revs my engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about the SSG, I mean, people are talking about Magisk and I don't know, NBK, Elige
And
apparently has been
Pyth
playing.
used to have it actually as well.
What?
Pyth, Pith, whatever you want it to.
Oh.
Pith.
I mean, I did an interview with Simple after they won StarSeries Season 5. He was the MVP, of course. And then I don't know what I asked, but he just mentioned like, yeah, I'm practicing with the other weapons as well, like the SSG. Like maybe I want to use it somewhere in the future, and maybe now it's a time. Simple is gonna add the SSG to his arsenal. Of course, it's cheap, so we might see some interesting stuff. I'm hyped for that.
But
Just
what you mean
remember
is
right
that Ed was gonna buy it and not throw it over to him, right? That's what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. That's what used to happen.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think the most annoying thing about the SG and the SSG, whatever, SG actually, SSG, the
SG,
scout,
Yeah,
SSG is
and the AUG is the scoping sound. It makes it so kind of useless because if you're playing any position that's kind of semi-aggressive, I mean positions that you wouldn't play with an op, so it doesn't matter when you make the scoping sound with the op. But if you do it with a Krieg or the AUG, people can just hear you, and then it's kind of useless, and you can't use it, and just gives away your position. So I don't know. That kind of annoys me. I think if that's removed, the scope could be more useful. I mean, and it wouldn't really be. I don't know. I think it would be just a good decision to just take away that stupid sound, and that's it.
Vodka Talk says, and this is true, I think username fits him pretty well. They need to make guns not come with ammo again, make you decide whether or not to buy additional ammo. That's for you, Moses.
No. What?
How would you like that?
I didn't like that aspect of 1.6 specifically too much, just because I don't know, it just feels useless. Like you saw players running out of ammo all of a sudden because they didn't have enough money to buy like an extra 30 bullets or whatever extra mag, and then you just see them running around with a pistol because they don't, or like throwing it to a teammate who has more bullets. I didn't like that aspect of 1.6 that you had to buy the ammo. I feel like it's better now.
Yeah, a lot more misbuys, right? You'd have a lot more recall.
Yeah,
I
we
saw
don't
you-
need like players to have any more responsibility. Even now, apparently they can misbuy all the time and use auto buy and stuff like that. So
Moses,
yeah,
we can't hear you now, man. I don't know if you.
yeah. Now
he's-
Moses muted himself too hard.
I forgot about the voice
Push the
activation
talk
there.
again.
That was the best when you would have someone who could barely afford the AWP and could only afford 10 bullets, and then they really had to pick and choose their fights and their battles.
Yeah.
That was fucking awesome.
No, I hated that aspect, honestly. I didn't like it.
Yeah, like I said, vodka talk. It is the vodka talking about that, I think. Let's just move on here because talking about the SG, one player that uses this, it's actually NBK. I think I know he tweeted about it as well. He's had a lot to tweet about in the last week or so. I know, Prof, that you said about this thing that Vitality was coming back with him at the helm was not really news anymore, since it was leaked slowly. But I still think it's a viable topic to discuss. NBK is back along with Saiwu, who he mentioned on stream when he was here on the show, and his good buddy Apex, and the rest of the fellas. For me, I think this is pretty exciting. But do you guys think they will be? Let's just start out with that, better than D2, or how long is the build-up period, do you think, for this team?
How hard is it to be better than G2?
Okay,
right
that's an easy one. That's a low hanging.
But I guess you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked Peter's tweet about this, is that the question of whether Shox, Kenny and Body removed NBK and Apex, or if NBK and Apex split up and went on to do their new thing, right? So which one's going to come true? Like, who actually made the right choice or whatever? Even though it, like, obviously it wasn't much of a choice for NBK and Apex, they were just removed, right? And that's what kind of makes this exciting, right? Because they were the ones left out, and now they actually have the team that could potentially be better than them. And although, like, you can say whatever you want about Happy, but still, that lineup has a lot of promise to it, and obviously a lot of it comes down to Zero, who is probably like the biggest talent, or like among the top 5 biggest talents at this moment. Like, I've only seen a few other players who have looked this good, like before they actually became like some of the greatest players in the world, and that was like somebody like Nico or someone like that. So that's just going to be really cool to see him in an actually good team.
He doesn't even have a HLTV profile picture.
He doesn't?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, that's interesting.
There is one picture. I don't know why he's not tagged.
Yeah. You mean I don't know, or?
No.
Yeah, it's all good. That was brilliant at the show match.
He's gonna get used to it. Don't worry. We'll get him there.
I actually think this team has a higher ceiling than G2, but I think they have some equally scary question marks. You know, so when that G2 lineup formed, there were so many question marks that I just couldn't get behind it, and it's almost the same here, where if you look at this lineup, like, there are going to be questions. Is Happy going to be able to have an impact in a game for the first time in, a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it might be? Apex needs to find a way to develop his game outside of entry fragging. Is RPK going to be able to be kind of some passive anchor? Can NBK actually lead the team, or is he going to be more of a star player, more of a fragger than what we've seen in the past? So if you look at this lineup, you look at it and you say NBK, RPK, and Happy for the past 2 years have been pretty passive players. Happy loves to lurk. RPK loves to just sit in a bomb site. NBK's been playing more of like the roles to set up his teammates and to allow other people to be the star players. So then you put a lot of weight on Zaiwu and Apex, who, Apex, as with his style of play, is always kind of up and down by nature because of his, always being a pure entry fragger, and Zaiwu as the upper. So you have a question of where the opening's going to be provided. How are they going to be able to find opening kills? How are they going to be able to kind of punish some of these teams? And that's kind of the scariest point for me. But if they can figure it out, if they find a way to kind of make all these pieces work and have someone transfer into a different style of play that is successful, I think they'll be better than G2.
Yeah. I would agree.
It's weird that like Ziwu didn't have like any stepping stone team at any point. Like he was in this like Y6 AAA team, and that's literally it. He never went to like a DreamHack Open. He never did anything except played for his like French, I don't know what even is that, French sub top team, and that's it.
So he's the French STU-E2K essentially.
Kinda,
pretty much actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually the comparison.
So he's just like gonna be thrown into these like top tournaments apparently. I mean, I don't see them not getting invites, at least for these like tier 2 tournaments or something like DreamHack Opens and stuff like that, or maybe even bigger tournaments if there's openings. So it's gonna be interesting from that perspective. Obviously he had he has so much hype about him, and he's been putting up numbers that are insane. So very, very hyped to see that guy play on the top level. But yeah, I agree with Moses that there are a lot of question marks, especially like the RPK Happy duo. They haven't been doing really anything for quite a long time now, and Happy especially. I don't know, RPK at least we've seen his very, very high peaks with G2. So he's someone you know what he can deliver, but going for Happy, you need to go back to like 2014, 15 to see his like top performances, and that was a different meta, and everything was quite different then. Yeah, it's gonna be weird, but at least you see great potential in this team, and with G2, I really didn't see it happening at all, even though it's depressing to see like Shox and Kineas not doing anything, and even being just looked at the stats from yesterday. I closed the tab, but it was against Optic. They played on 2 online matches, and Existence was the only guy being positive in both matches, which is that shouldn't be happening. Definitely shouldn't be happening. But yeah, I don't know. About Vitality. The only thing I really don't like is their whole branding logo thing. It looks very bad. You can't be a supporter of that team if they don't have like a B.
What are you talking about?
I mean, Vitality's logo is literally like some fly or a bee, like flies are
B. Oh, like
insects
I thought a
aren't
B,
cool.
like the letter B. I was like, what?
No, just like some.
No, yeah, all right.
It doesn't make sense.
I thought the V for
It's a
victory
V.
thing was kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sorry, what?
The V for victory. That's like a whole
Oh.
like Winston Churchill World War II type thing. Yeah.
You don't think that's very French?
Yeah, there is that. There is that.
What do you mean? Like, should they have like a white flag as their logo or whatever? What should that be? Like, I don't know.
Just like
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am especially looking towards Happy, because that's where we've been saying this for a very long time, right? That Happy just doesn't know how to change his style. His style that he has been using since 2014, 15 has obviously not been working because everybody knows about it. And he's been way too passive in those lurks and stuff like that. So I think that's the biggest question mark. I feel like RPK, like you said, like he has had some pretty bright periods, even with Envy, around the start of the year at the E-League Major. I think it was before that, because at the E-League Major he went to the hospital, right? That was the tournament. So especially Happy is somebody I'm going to be looking towards. I think MBK, like in regards to like the aggression and where the openings will be, I think MBK can easily transfer to like a more aggressive supportive role, where he's going to be more towards working in tandem with Apex and whatever the main trio that's going to be attacking sites is going to be, or whatever like that. So I feel like that's much less of a question mark than Happy. I think Happy is going to be the one that I'm going to be looking towards the most, because that's what the biggest issue with Happy's teams have been, like him actually, like not only the leading, which has obviously now been taken away from him, but the playstyle that we have been criticizing for such a long time.
All right, so let's put the lid on that one. Definitely interesting to see whether they'll do any damage. First of all, they have to go to some events, and I think they have a chance to go to an event that you're actually going to be at, right, Moses? Or they have the GG.Bet Shuffle, which is a qualifier for IEM Chicago. Chicago.
Chicago.
I even said that right. That's just automatically. Let's hope that you get to see them and to see them there.
I think it's by the way, just as a side note, like, think about how G2 have gotten invites to all these big events in like whatever Cologne and New York, based on the results of the old lineup, and this lineup is obviously not going to get none of that, because they actually don't have any sort of ranking to them, because it's just 2 players of the original lineup, etc. So I think there's no point here. It's just like, I feel like that's a little bit unfair that a team that obviously didn't have any kind of promise or didn't have much of a promise got so many chances, and this team will have to earn it.
I mean, they even got the ECS slot at the LAN. That would literally the whole team played online, if I remember correctly.
Oh, you mean G2, right?
Yeah. They just went into the LAN like first matches ever played. We were playing a LAN.
That's the thing. They haven't gone through any qualifier yet. G2. They actually haven't had, aside from Cologne, like anywhere, G2 haven't had any good results. So I feel like obviously now that's going to dwindle away, now that they've kind of not they still have some time. But now that they've shown that they actually aren't and even as good as the previous team who got to the playoffs, but they never got past. This team is not even getting to playoffs, so that's something that's going to dwindle away. They're not going to get those invites anymore, and they're probably going to fall off. While this team will have to work their way up and try to go through these qualifiers, and finally, when they get some invites, they can actually start showing up a little bit more regularly. So that's going to be interesting to watch. I just hope that we're actually going to get to see them a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know how, like, Sharks, Kenyas, playing online qualifiers with all of these tier 2, 3 teams, like top 15 to 30, 35, 40 teams, which can all be dangerous, and those qualifiers last for so long. It's going to be, I don't know, it's going to be fun for them, definitely. No one likes to play those qualifiers.
Yeah.
Right, no one likes to play the qualifiers, but we like to play our own game at HLTV Confirmed. Moses, we're going to be cutting you out for a little while. We'll be bringing you back for our closing questions when we get back here. But
you can still talk.
Yeah, you can talk if you want to, but I'm afraid we're going to
put
put your beautiful face outside the camera. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
But
This is where I'll pick my nose.
This is where you breathe. Don't breathe into the mic. That's the most important thing. That's before actually we get to our slips for this week's. Let's go check out the standings. Lucas, our producer, will need to go to my screen. We have a little graph that shows where we're at in this.
The one that you just screwed up for me because Lucas wasn't in charge of my slip last time.
For those of you that don't know what this is all about, we play a game where we bet on the next upcoming games of any event at each show. We started out with 1,000 euros in house money on GG.Bet, and then tried to see if we can enlarge that pool of money. And we succeeded for the most part, especially you, Prof. But it's been going a little bit worse for you since the last one. Also, we have. We also have Striker losing a bit of money because we had Lucas standing in for you. Yeah. So it's I think it's going all right.
Look, I'm pretty tilted about the last one, honestly, because I missed only one, and it was Big against Fragsters, and Big had a 15-7 lead or something on Nuke, and they couldn't close it out. So honestly, feels like being robbed. I felt like sending threatening messages to Big. You're so bad.
It's exactly what I wanted to say. Don't say that on stream because people are going to take
No, I'm obviously joking. Please, people that do that, are you serious? What the fuck?
Smooya, he can take
What's wrong with you guys? No one cares about, it's your money, you bet, you lose. It's life.
Who was it that posted yesterday? I think one of the worst ones I've seen.
I saw one from Body. It was
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, a lot of.
No, it's just those people. I'd say something that's even worse than what they say to the players, but I'm gonna stay away from that.
I think Device said it pretty clearly, right? We don't give a fuck
exactly.
about your money.
Yeah, exactly.
Exact words. All right, so let's move on here.
The players are not responsible for your choices. That's what I'm gonna say. Only bet what you are willing to lose. That's what we've been hearing all week at StarSeries from the likes of Torin and Stunna and those guys.
Yeah.
So let's not. Yeah, that's it. That's
my
message to the fans.
Keep that in mind also for this segment that we're gonna do now. We're gonna be winning some of the money back. I think this time. Prof, this is about the just to frame it, it's the StarSeries Season 6 playoffs. So take it away.
Yes. I don't know. I didn't really feel that good. Just looking at the playoff bracket, all of these teams are kind of close. Didn't play that much. Don't have a history against each other. Map pools are question mark, what's going on? So I just went for 3 this time and was started with Optic to beat Renegades. I just feel like Optic are finally finding their footing. It seems like they played decently in the group stage. Renegades is a new team. It's a best of 3, so Renegades probably aren't ready on that many maps. That's kind of my thinking. I think for 1.58, it's kind of a decent odds. So yeah, after that, I went for Vega against Fragsters, even though I enjoyed watching Fragsters, and especially Refresh has been pretty insane, ballsy player, saving them all the time with a second op or with the rifle. Every time they kind of come to a situation and feels they can't close it out, then just Refresh comes in a clutch, two kills, 3 kills or something in the round that they need to win. I just feel like coming to the stage is going to be kind of different. Vega is going to be they're kind of accustomed to it more or less by this point, more experienced players in there. So I feel like it's kind of a upset. I think it's a pretty high odds, of course, but I feel like Fragsters aren't on the level to kind of to deal with the pressure yet. And then for last, I went ends big to be like a 3-map series. I just feel like both teams are pretty good and should kind of map pools kind of align. It should be a 3-mapper.
A little bit more safe than we're used to from you, I guess.
Yeah, just there wasn't a lot of choice, felt like.
All right, moving on to mine, then I obviously have it the other way around. I think if you look at my, and if you know where I come from, if you look at my slip, I think it's going to be pretty obvious. This is like a major homer. Because I have
not biased at all.
No, not biased at all. And actually, I wanna pound
you
on
did pick against North though.
I didn't. I actually didn't. I picked them to win 10 rounds. I just didn't
still
pick
picking
them.
against North. You still don't think they're gonna win, so that's the important
I
thing.
mean, my bias aside,
doesn't mean they don't win the 16 rounds.
No, I know, but it's just being safe about the team that you believe in the least, basically.
It's definitely the chicken way out of this. So first things first, I actually have Fragsters to win because those guys are so awesome, and I think that they actually have what it takes to beat out Vega. And I know you said they're more experienced, but I can't say that it's that much. But obviously, the point stands that they have more experience on the stage than Fragsters do. But I think the Star Power is going to win through, especially because of Refresh, and also because that guy actually comes from my neighborhood. So that's it. You should never bet like I'm doing now. You just honestly never do this. But
wait for mine.
Yeah, I could do it any other way. And then I have North to win 10 rounds on the first map of the Energy. I think Energy are gonna win it, to be completely honest. But North tend to play pretty close to most teams. And then for the last one, I actually have Optic to 2-0 Renegades, which is probably. This one's for certain, if you look at the odds, it's the most challenging one or the least likely one. But I think this is it for Optic. This is the one. This is where they're going to turn it around. Config's going to show up and they're going to blast out this new lineup of Renegades. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, I mean, you have 2.81. Is that right? On
yeah.
Optic
yeah,
Renegades.
Yeah.
I have 3.47 on Energy 2-0 North, which is.
I was looking at that one.
That's not bad.
Honestly, I'm relatively confident in it, but the only one that I'm actually pretty sure is going to happen is Optic beating Renegades. I feel like Renegades have looked better than we expected them to with the new lineup. I feel like they got off to a pretty good start, but I just have a feeling that Optic, with how Config, Cajun, and even Nico have been looking, especially Config, obviously he's been carrying Optic throughout this event, but like I said, Cajun and Nico have been looking good enough that I'm just starting to cautiously believe in this team again, especially against a team like Renegades, who have obviously not proven themselves too much with this new lineup because they've only met relatively lower tier teams. So I'm still picking Optic to win this, and especially if Yugi kind of finds his form, because he hasn't been doing that.
Yeah.
This event, he's basically been the only one who's been a little bit underwhelming. So if he finds his form, I feel like Optic could even be a solid title contender at this tournament. But not jumping ahead, I just feel like they're the better team against Renegades, who have just not had the time to prepare, to have the best map pool, which is going to come into play in these best of threes. So I'm pretty confident in Optic, which is also the least challenging of my bets. Honestly, I'm starting to regret this one, Ends versus Big, because
didn't you already change it from like Ends winning or something?
No, I changed it. I changed the last one from Energy winning to Energy winning 2-0. But yeah, Ends and Big. I picked Big mostly because they had the worst odds, even though I feel like they're slight favorites in this match. Based on this tournament,
close, right? The odds were very close.
Yeah, I think Ends were some like 1.85 maybe or something like that, very close to each other. But I went for Big because I felt like they're slightly favored, even though the GG.Bet had them as slight underdogs. And the way the tournament went might not exactly support that. Ends have actually been looking very confident. They even beat Mousesports on the way to the 3-0, although Big have done that as well. And that, for a time, didn't look like to be the case when Mousesports made the 15-15 on Train, but still. Big, I feel like, have kind of made the turnaround. They went from the 0-2 to 3-2. They're actually looking like a good team again, which they didn't at the start of the tournament. But that's kind of the big way, the inconsistency. The reason I picked them is that those last 3 games that they won, I feel like they've actually been looking like the team that made the deep run at Cologne. I just felt like Smooya was making pretty big plays. He had some big clutches and things like that, and that's why I put them as slight favorites above Vents. But it is a very, very risky bet, to be fair. I feel like that's the one where I should have gone the same way as Prof, where he went for the 3-mapper. Because that's where I feel like it's going to go. I think it's going to go to 3 maps, but I would edge it towards big.
Too late now to change it up.
Yeah, I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to back away. I'm not in this state.
You can. This
No,
is saved for eternity now. It's on the internet. You can't take it down. So let's bring back our friend Jason from the other side of the pond. Shall we? Moses, are you with us? You haven't been breathing in the mic, so I don't really know if you're still.
I've stayed away. I've stayed away from the button just in case.
Guys, this is the point where you put all your interesting questions in the chat for our closing questions.
Until we get some, I just wanted to touch on Ents. Like, they went 3-0, and Sergey is the best player at the tournament, which is kind of cool. 1.5 rating, which is insane. But they won all 6 pistol rounds that they played, and they have a 100% pistol round conversion, like second round conversion. So just taking that into account, that's, I think, something that plays into them looking maybe a bit better than they should look normally. Like, you shouldn't win all of your pistols and convert all of them into like 3-0 leads on both sides, or 2-0 leads at least. So that's something that might probably just like regress to the mean going forward, and then they'll have a bit more of a challenge.
So bring your questions in the chat. We have some time to answer it. A lot of people want to know about snacks. I guess those people weren't around at the beginning of the show. We went through that. Do you think snacks should get benched? I don't know. I think the panel decided that probably.
Yeah, I think we all agree.
They should. Was complexity just a fluke at the major? We also went through that one. There was one for you, Moses, actually, that was a little bit different, and it was more of a general question towards you as a caster. It was a guy who wanted to know how you actually better yourself or train as a caster. Do you watch your own replays? Do you listen to your own voice? How do you actually improve from event to event?
I so wanted to say something.
You can go ahead.
Go ahead, say it. Get in there.
No, I wanted to say, like, dude, do you actually improve? That's the question, right?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard these days. Just because of how many events we do. If I don't review my own VODs or demos, but mostly just because of the amount of time that we have is just so limited that I'm not going to spend it. You know, if I have 2 days off in a 3-week period, I'm not spending it watching back Counter-Strike matches that I casted. So when I started, I did a little bit of that. I did some research, and for the most part, it was just kind of each time I casted, I forced myself to do a little bit more play-by-play to kind of learn how to do that aspect of broadcasting or that aspect of casting. So most of it has just been kind of my own internal reflection, but nothing like too crazy. I haven't done any like rigorous self boot camp or anything like that.
So is it because you don't like your own voice, or is it just is that?
I mean, nobody likes to do that. Like,
yeah.
I hate, like, I do it because I want to improve as well. Then I watch my interviews back, and like a lot of the times I edit them, so I kind of have to as well. But I hate doing that. So I definitely don't blame people for not wanting to do it, even though it's kind of important.
Yeah, I don't hate my own voice. I just I hate listening to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not because of the voice itself. I find it really weird. I don't know. I don't really know why. Even like every once in a while, we'll come into an event and sit in the green room in the morning, and they'll have like yesterday's matches we'll be playing, and if I'm the caster, I just mute the TV. Like, I don't know. It's just very weird to listen to.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
I know that feeling.
Do you all have? Is it like this for all of you, or do some? Can you tell us whether anyone really likes their own voice in the group?
No, I mean I'm kind of okay with it now, but I hated it before. I think I watched a TED talk on it, but the TED talk was kind of shit, and it didn't really say like why doesn't anyone like their own voice. They said bunch of other things, or maybe it was just too long, so I didn't remember. But
I mean,
there
it's
is
the same as
something
watching
there's
yourself
something
on camera.
science about not liking your own voice.
But isn't it the same thing about the face? Like if you watch yourself on on video or whatever, I feel like it's the same thing. I don't like doing that either. It has to fall into the same category.
The question was actually whether anyone in the talent group enjoy their own voices, or if everyone feels the same as you, Jason.
I'm sure there are some. I mean, we are just by nature egotistical narcissistic bunch. So I'm sure there's a couple of us that enjoy our own voices
So
more than the other.
if you determine which is who is the most egotistical one, then that's the guy.
Listen,
That's what you're trying to say right now.
I can't be giving out that information. But no, I mean, I said it's a little bit of a joke, but just by nature of the job, you do have to build up some kind of a level of ego and of, I mean, maybe not narcissism might be too negative of a connotation, but you do need to have like some level of ego to the point where, or like overconfidence to the point where you can be on camera and you can crack a stupid joke, or you don't mind being the idiot at a certain segment, or
Yeah.
something along those lines. And you have to have a strong enough ego and enough confidence to be able to withstand all the people calling you bald piece of shit at all times of day.
It's part of, isn't it? All right, so something that we didn't actually answer or touch upon, but that people want to know is I don't know how to pronounce his name. I guess it's Juan Taparinos. Okay, that's pretty good. Who do you see?
Did you just like decide that yourself that was good?
No, no, the name is pretty good. I just didn't.
Okay.
I thought it would be
I thought
hard.
your pronunciation
No,
was
no,
pretty
no.
good.
That's okay. Who do you actually see winning StarSeries S6 Season 6? We didn't actually touch upon that because we didn't bet outright. So I
it's
guess
super tough, man. Like,
yeah,
it's like now that Mousesports are out, like who do you look to, right? You have Energy, who are kind of, I'd say they're the slight favorites to do it. I would put them up there for sure. Just
they
because
also have some,
like I think they were the second best team from the start. I mean, we kind of saw them as the second best team from the start, I feel like. But like they could, yeah, I'm gonna go up against my bet, but they could lose to North if North just end up on a good day and feel like, and with like Cadian gets a lot of picks with the op. It's something that like they have that upside potential North right now because they are going to be hard to read because of the new style and stuff like that.
I asked Cadian for like a pre StarSeries interview because he obviously just joined it. We wanted to get his thoughts on joining the team, what do they think they need and stuff. And he was like, "No, I think I'll wait till after Kiev because then we'll do it with a victory in the back." Like he was overconfident about that.
That's what
I mean, that's important though. Like even if. Well, yeah, that's what they always say in interviews, but not necessarily in like private talks and whatever. But yeah, it's Energy. I think I would put up there. Like I'd give them maybe like a 40% chance to win at this point. I think they're maybe 40, not that.
I think it's
that's a little bit too much.
Pushing it too far.
That's a little bit too much. But maybe
my
like
opinion is
25-30.
There are three teams that surely won't win it, and it's Renegades, Vega, and Fragsters. That's all I can say.
The winner is going to come from Ensbig or Energy North, and I mean that only kind of narrows it down halfway. Yeah. But I think in reality the winner is going to come. I think the winner is going to be North. If I had to pick one of those teams, yeah.
Really?
Seriously?
What are you seeing this early?
Now that's a good point. I should do the disclaimer that I haven't watched a single game or map of Star Ladder,
and therefore not a game of North, right?
Strictly going by rosters and all of these things. I think North has the best chance of winning.
They have a decent roster. Why not? They play okay. It can happen. They have enough quality to just like beat any of these teams. Like these teams are not that good. Let's be real. So you can beat any. Like why wouldn't North beat like NRG, Big End? It can happen. It's like no one would say like, whoa, how did this happen? How did North win? And no one would say.
I'd be surprised if that happened just because. Just look at how much time they had together, right? They're not going to have the map pulled together. They're going to have a hard time kind of adapting mid-game. They're going to have to... Well, but the problem is they're going to have to, because of that, they're going to have to rely on individuals, right? So if that doesn't happen, then they're definitely not favored to win the tournament. So they're going to be way too reliant on that for me to say that they're going to be favored to win it, honestly. I feel like Energy are quite obvious favorites in that matchup, and that's why I ended up going for the 2-0, even though it's risky as fuck.
They also need to like redeem themselves because they actually reached the final of I think the latest one, right? And lost to Navi.
Yes.
NRG.
Wasn't that
Season 5, yeah.
Yeah.
That was when they were a massive underdog. That's a kind of breakout they had.
Yeah.
This time they're actually coming from a stronger position. And like I definitely agree that the winner is going to be between Big Energy and North, but I would put North the lowest out of those 4 teams, honestly.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Fair play.
I don't know. I have more faith in Big than NRG, honestly. Just because of the kind of the pedigree of the players. I just don't see NRG as winners yet. That's kind of my feeling. It's not like Big won.
Yeah, that's also fair.
7,000 tournaments, but
I
there
mean,
is
like
kind
none
that.
of those teams are particularly winners, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe like, well, not even Optic. Like if you look at Config and Cajun, like
Yeah.
even they didn't have that many wins over their careers and stuff. But even Ents are like relatively new team on the horizon. They had that Cologne, like a good Cologne run, but Big had a better one. Big have had, I guess, the highest peak out of these teams, especially like given that North obviously have a completely different lineup and they haven't had no peak because this is just like the same core but a totally different approach. So Big, I guess, I'd pick Big and Energy up there.
Fair. So Nipe XXX asks, VP won 16 straight rounds over G2. What do you think? I didn't actually see that. So
it was 16-5, but this is like I think G2 had 5 rounds and then Virtus Pro.
Oh yeah, they
16.
did. That's 5-0 to
Snatch,
16-5. Holy shit!
Fuck yeah!
How did that happen?
I mean, someone has to win the match. That's the thing.
I am a fucking hardcore VP fan. I love that shit. They're back. Let's go.
Tough months for you.
Is the VP jersey underneath that T-shirt? Let's just show it.
The question is more.
That I'd expect against Virtus Pro.
Like, if you're this hardcore, Moses, did you buy the new shirt, the new colors?
The green one, the green and purple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Pasha said he would get me one. I think he forgot with everything going on. And let's be honest, I don't really care to have that jersey at all. I have the old one with all the signatures, the old lineup.
You're not getting one now.
For my honest. Yeah, no, it's all right. I'll live. I'll be fine. Yeah, that was the first jersey I got for my office back home to get it framed up and hung on the wall. So I absolutely love those guys. I love that team, and I think our scene is so much better with them playing well. That I hope they get back. I hope Pasha and Neo and Cuban figure out a way to kind of come back after all these struggles, and have success, because they're one of my favorite teams to watch. Although a lot of that was Taz, because I love Taz as well. I hope Taz. I like all the fucking Polish play. Like, I hope Taz finds a way to get his team Kingwood back to playing really well. And I hope they get into some top tier events, because his teams always have such a cool attitude and emotional and aura around them that we deserve to have those guys playing well.
I would love to see Smooya trying to break them as a task team for this antics.
Listen, this is kind of going way back to the start of the show, but if we're gonna have this, I've actually, every time I talk to an organizer or a TO or anyone who has any influence in putting on an event, I always ask them to do one event where it's not a big wide stage. I want them to put both PCs right in front of the other.
Yeah.
Back to back tables, just back to back. You're facing each other, and there's always so many stupid, easy to solve issues that they kind of bring up, like the whole flashbang bug thing, and it's like,
is that easy to solve?
Just put a wall. Just put a wall to the top of the monitors, and if you want to talk some shit, you're going to stand up.
Okay.
I just think it'd be so great to have one event where you just are that close and you actually get to talk some smack to each other. No booths. You just stand up and you get to yell. Imagine Taz in that environment. Yeah. Imagine the Brazilians.
What about
the Brazilians in that environment? It'd be great.
What
about the comms?
Katowice?
Would they still use helicopter headsets or just normal ones? What's the deal there?
I don't know. I guess you'd have to use the helicopter just because it would be in an arena, right?
Yeah,
but, you could hear each other probably.
Like the DreamHack
but I mean,
ones?
what I wanted to ask was, were you in at any of the events where Katowice was played in that old setup in the gym? where they had like I think it was Katowice 2014, the major.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't there, right? Or were you?
No, I wasn't there.
Oh, that's too bad, because they kind of had like, they had a square with like
Yeah,
a team
I know
on
what
each
you're talking about,
side,
yeah.
and they actually did play that way. And some of them, I remember just standing behind Semphis when they still played with Complexity at that. What was it, Complexity? Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
At that time. And he was just shouting at Kenny like, Kenny, look into my eyes, Kenny, and stuff like that. So that was just the one of the best events with that kind of setup. I agree with that. I really like that.
There was also I noticed a pretty funny GG.Bet clip when he was in Mousesports. Actually, I don't remember what the other team is, where he's like doing exactly the same stuff as what happened last night, right? More of this, please. So to round things off on a positive note, Moses, main G.Bet says, when and if you get to Poland, you have big fat beer bought by me. Apparently this man lives close to Katowice, so maybe do what you can to get into that, huh?
I might have to. It's gonna be. I imagine it'll be about 3 weeks in Katowice. I'll need something to to occupy my time.
All right. Let's finish things off. Moses, thanks so much for joining. I'm glad to see that you're not too proud to do 2 podcasts with the Ginger host.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us from San Francisco.
Anytime, man.
Yeah. Thanks to Profs. Thanks to Striker. Remember
start preparing those questions for the counter quiz final episode.
Yeah.
Listen, we're gonna wreck you guys. You're gonna get trucked.
But we helped you though. Like, you have to give us that. Like, we actually helped you. Like, we wouldn't have given points.
Striker
for some of
already
those
waving the
other
white
people.
flag. Just take it, man. We'll just.
You wouldn't have had to give us hints if the questions were reasonable.
But that's exactly why we did, right? We just we were feeling bad for you because you were taking so long to answer.
I've seen some of the chats that's been going on about your happiness about their poor showing, so I wouldn't take that too seriously. These guys are talking behind your back, and it's not only banter.
I believe it.
Moses, thanks so much for joining. Remember to go follow him at OnFireMoses, the other guys, and me as well. We have our handles on the screen right now. This has been HLTV Confirmed episode 5. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all your beautiful questions and comments that you had, and all the discussion that's been going on in the chat while we were talking. Have a great night, everyone.